We obviously contract with Temecula Police Department, and Saves Temecula Police Department, and Murrieta Police Department, where she is out housing truly homeless people that we come in contact with, and the relationship that she's been able to build with our officers, where they will call her and ask her. I know George is here, and George and I unfortunately have to be part of this big thing we call Riverside County government, but Riverside County government has a lot of rules and red tape and regulations and hurdles to really helping people, and does not. And so, and unfortunately becomes the phone number where all of the deputies call in the middle of the night to help someone that truly does need help. So, as I progressed through this and meeting Ann and learning what Ann did, I had no idea who Ann was. And learning what she does with homeless, and that going into what my plan was, somehow not a plan, just an idea of how our faith-based organizations in our county were going to be what made the difference. Everything really just fell into place. And it's nothing that I did, it's nothing that I said. I just believe in being honest, I believe in integrity. Back to my staff. Quite honestly, your previous sheriff's administration, not all, but our department lacked a direction. We lacked leadership. And I will say, I don't have to have any of them repeat it or even think it, but I believe that what we really lacked at the top of our administration, and especially with what we do and how we affect people's lives, was I believe we lacked God influence. And the whole thing about me winning this election and not the last one, if I had won the last election, my administration certainly would not look like it does today. Wow. As I evolved through that 6 years up until ending this year and winning the election, is where these men came into play. And one of the requirements, obviously I needed leaders, I needed talent, I needed ability, but honestly, without coming out and telling anyone, my requirements of who I picked were ethical, moral, God-fearing men. Wow. As a leader of an organization, I have the ability to point direction. I have the ability to suggest things. I have the ability to demand things. But if I don't have the people underneath me that agree with me, that have the same beliefs as me, the same ideas of servanthood, of leadership and what leadership is supposed to look like, then I would not be successful. So it was a God-driven event that led me to each one of them, not only for consideration, but for even them accepting. A few of them, when I asked them, you would think that this would be the sheriff is asking me to be a part of this team. You would think that's a big deal. Some of them said, well, let me think about it. And with that, though, I know that I did pick the right people, because if it would have been about them, the answer would have been an immediate yes. Wow. And none of them answered yes immediately. Some of them took longer than I really had anticipated. But I think they had, I do know now, and I talked with them, they had to pray over it too. They had to make sure that it was what their family wanted and the direction for that they felt that God was taking them in their lives. And some of them, it changed their lives because they were leaving also. And I did not know that, but it changed the direction that they had thought their life was going, because God had a different plan. So that brings us to today, where we have the ability, and honestly, I have to admit to everybody, I really have been slightly overwhelmed with how many things have happened since January till now with this job. We've changed a ton in the department. We've made a whole bunch of changes. Everybody wants to meet with me. Everybody wants to talk with me. And not on purpose, Libby thought that I didn't like her anymore. Ann is just very persistent, so Ann found all of her information elsewhere, I was told this morning, which is good. But I really had no idea what this was going to be this morning, and I really didn't get the gravity of it until I read the last couple of emails, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people there. They're all pastors, and there's a whole bunch of churches represented here. And if you really want to look back now, God got us all here for something. Yeah. And I don't think it was for the salad. It may be a godly salad, but I don't think that's what we all were here for. My vision and my mission for this department is to make a difference. I've said it all along, is every day when I wake up, I want to make this day better than the day before, and that's how you make a difference. And making a difference in our county basically makes it safe. And of course, law enforcement, we have to do the things we have to do to rid ourselves of the criminal element, but we have to have help. We can't do it ourselves. You guys could not do it by yourselves. It's going to take a collaborative effort and a mutual effort between all of us. And as first responders, we unfortunately see the worst that our society has to offer, but in that, there can always be good, and there can always be good men and women that we are in contact with that just haven't got to that point in their life because God hasn't touched them yet, or something else hasn't, another godly person hasn't come into their life to help them, to serve them. And maybe this is it. I've always said that I didn't know what it was going to look like. How in the world would I get a whole bunch of churches all together to want to help me? I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start. And did it for me. It all happened in a quiet, cool manner. Nobody even knew it was happening, and it did. I know we have a lot to do. I know we have, I honestly, I don't know what 6 months is going to look like with this. I don't know what 4 years is going to look like, but I know that the county of Riverside is not going to fix our problems. Government and bureaucracy is not going to help. They're a Band-Aid, they're not the answer. We are the answer.
That's good.
God is the answer.
Yeah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
So now, as the days and the weeks move forward, I'm going to have to start paying more attention to the emails that come from Libby and Ann. And I may even have to start responding with requests and whatever it is that how we're going to figure this out. I believe that a county-wide effort of making a difference in the people that we come in contact with is going to be what helps us, what makes us more safe, what stops us from getting our vehicles stolen and our houses broken into. We all have to be a part of it. We'll find them, and I'm going to need your help to save them.
Yeah.
Nobody can leave without leaving an email address and your phone number. I'm just kidding. Oh, Ann said that is really true. I was being nice and funny, and Ann said, really, you're not leaving until you leave your phone numbers and your email address. But I hope that you and your churches are up for this. I know that every church does good work in the community, and we like giving back, and we're all called to serve and to help. But maybe I'm just asking for a different aspect and for a different area of how we can help, and rather than just provide food for a weekend or a holiday or taking care of someone's house or clean up, maybe we can change a few lives and change the criminal element into one not. Obviously, we would all benefit from that, and I can tell you, it is 100% impossible for me to do. I will make unbelievable strides in law enforcement for Riverside County and what we're capable of doing and what we're able to do and the money that costs to spend it. But changing people's lives, I have to have all of you helping. And I hope that me talking for the last couple of years, saying that my vision was by making a difference with faith-based organizations, I hope it was real. And I hope that me working with Ann, Libby, and the rest of all of you, I hope we're able to make a difference, and I hope that you are all willing to come alongside us in law enforcement. If you're not going to help, I'll just ask you this: if you can't help physically, then I'm all for the prayer. And we need prayer every single day for what we are doing, for what we want to do, and really even our families. I think we're putting more hours in than what we really wanted to or meant to. I would have thought that this would have been, it's a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 job, and we get long lunches and coffees and everything else, and it's turning into 6 in the morning to 10 at night, and wake up at 2 and do it again.
Wow.
So we need prayer for what we want to change. Please pray for all of our spouses because they're feeling the pain too. I appreciate all of you wanting to come out and help and answering Ann's call to come to this and to find out how you can help. We will definitely be moving forward with Ann's idea of we kind of like pass it back and forth and of a council, of a faith-based council of how we can all help, how we can all come together. That is definitely going to happen. If you're willing to help, if you're willing to be on the front lines of that fight, please stand up, please let us know, please reach out, because in the next little bit, that's the direction we're going. We can't let something like this be for nothing and be just for lunch. It had to be, God got us here and He's putting us in a direction, and I am very, very happy to be alongside all of you and for you coming here. So I just want to thank you all for coming again. Please keep praying for us. Pray for each other. Pray for the direction of where law enforcement and the churches can take our county, and it's got to be better. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
So God bless our new sheriff, and he shared his heart, and I intentionally wanted to pray for him after he shared his heart, so you pastors would know how to pray moving forward. I wanted to let him eat. He said, "Oh, Ann, I don't have to eat." I said, "No, you have to eat. You have a big job to do." So I'm going to let him eat a little bit. What we're going to do, I have some, Robin and Lisa, God bless you. I want everyone to take a minute, because most of you have finished. Very, very important. As he said, there's sheets, there's sign-in sheets, and I'm sorry I didn't announce in the beginning, but I'd like you to stop now and pass that around. It is imperative we get your name and your email. We do have it captured, but next to your name, put a little asterisk if you want to really get involved, or a C if you are going to be considered being on that council, so we know. So please take a minute and pass these sign-in sheets around, and if my servant leadership team could make their way to each table, make sure everyone has signed in and pick up those sheets and the index cards. If you have a question for the sheriff, depending on how many we get, if we don't get a lot, maybe we'll just have you raise your hand, but I think to keep it decent and in order, I'd like you to write your questions on an index card, and Lisa and Robin is going to come around now. If you have an index card with a question, please raise your hand. Please remember to put your name and your email on there if we don't get to your question today. A little bit of housekeeping. Everybody, I announced many of the dignitaries in the room. Did Mayor Rusty Bailey ever make it? Is he here? Where's Mayor Rusty Bailey? Mayor Rusty Bailey, thank you for coming. I'd like to come and say one more. I know you're the mayor of Riverside. side, and we know Chad, if you'd like to say a quick word to the crowd. I don't know how much you've missed, but we're trying to round up a posse. So, also, as the mayor makes his way up here, my dearest friend in the world, Mr. Ron Brown, came in a little bit late, but that's okay. He is here. He doesn't like when I that, but no, we say the best for last. No, that's a waste. A real quick story. I knew Ron about 25 years ago. We kind of were acquaintances briefly, and life went on, and I got saved, and all I knew when I got saved, I said, oh, I'm supposed to find my old friend Ron Brown. And I go, well, maybe he's going to golf in one of my tournaments. Oh, FYI, golf tournament flyers on the table for all you golfers. And I couldn't find him. I couldn't find him again. So true story. So on the day of my 43rd birthday, I'm not afraid to tell my age, I was doing a fundraiser at March Air Force Base, Kings Hall Women and Children's Shelter. We're exploiting my birthday to get stuff. And out of the blue, someone called me and just said, oh, hey, I just hung up the phone with my good friend Ron Brown. I said, my Ron Brown? Rams and Raiders? And he said, yeah, how do you know him? I got on the phone. Ronald came to my birthday and hasn't left my side ever since, been helping me walk through this adventure that I've had. Former NFL player for the Los Angeles, Anaheim Rams back then, right? The Anaheim Rams and the Oakland Raiders, and 1984 Olympic gold medalist on the 4-man relay to break a world record at the time. My dear friend Ron Brown is here. And thank you for always putting up with me and having my back. He's my homie. Thank you, Ron. Okay, Mayor Rusty Bailey, would you like to say just a couple words? And we're going to allow Chad to finish eating and then collect these questions. Thank you for coming.
Glory to God in this event, in this coming together, and this support for our sheriff. For my sheriff. I did come in and listen to his words, and servant leadership is what I heard first and foremost. That's what he believes in, that's his style of leadership. Surrounding himself with the right people, and most importantly, he's asking you to pray for him.
Yeah.
And I hope that you answer that call. It's been instrumental and essential in my service as your mayor in Riverside. If there's a Riverside, but just to hear him ask you for prayer, not just for himself, but for his family. I have been so fortunate to have a team, a group of pastors that have come to my office, the sheriff, and I hope that you will ask them to come to your office from time to time to pray with you and pray for you. And as you circle around Riverside County, the 4th largest county in the state, the 10th largest in population in the country.
Wow.
It's its own state. It really is. And you have a sheriff that is a believer, loves the Lord, loves his family, loves his community, and I'm proud to call him a friend. His son helped get me elected to the mayor. Zach is a West Point graduate. We're proud of him, aren't we, Chad? He's a good man. And his family is continuing to serve, not just in the city, but across this country. So that's what I'm just asking you all to do, to continue to support and pray, come alongside, lift him up, and ask him how you can help him in his service to our county, to our community. God bless you, Chad. I haven't said congratulations in public to you yet. So this is a public congratulations to my brother in Christ, to my friend, to Chad and his family. I look forward to serving alongside you. You know where I sit, my door's open, and I look forward to spending some time with you on a ride along, or whatever we can do together. You know that, and you have my support and my prayers as well. God bless you all for coming together. For also, Chad, I would encourage you, as it is a big county, it is diverse. This is a Christian community. I understand here with us today, and as the mayor too, I'm the mayor of the entire city. You're the sheriff of the entire county. I know, as I heard you speak, that you plan to get around to other communities, other faiths, and to make sure that you are inclusive in your administration and your exercising on justice and law enforcement. So God bless you for that. Jesus was Lord of all, right? Whether it was a Jewish person or Samaritan, he embraced them with him both. So thanks for that example, and thanks for your example, Chad. God bless you all again today, pastors, And otherwise, I look forward to continuing to serve along your side.
Thank you, Mayor Estevez, for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend today. Thank you so much. And his words are true, and just if I can be very real, we organized this luncheon, and I am a big believer in being the light everywhere. So we did have a couple people that their feelings were a little bit hurt, but we want to get our own family in order and come alongside. Dana will be sharing with you at the end about, he's not only is he sponsoring this lunch, but we are in the process of forming a huge countywide concert event where all will be invited, and we will do some follow-up sharing at that event. It will be this summer. You have flyers on your table. We're hoping for the Storm Stadium in Lake Elsinore. We will have headlining Christian performers to attend, and we want to make sure that we invite all of you to participate, and you bring people. We have over 100 churches represented here today, so we want to get them all. But I'm so glad that those of you that came did come. I want to take a moment to, servanthood is what we are about. So I really want to genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, because I have served here for many years, thank all the banquet staff and servers today for taking great care of us. You never know, servers. I was in your shoes, and then I started working for the Lord, and here we are back home. Can I tell you one quick God story? You guys love those great God stories, because this one's a doozy. I was a brand new Christian, and I was just, it's everywhere. And a person said, oh, you need to meet Ronna Cato. She's a great lady to be on your board. I go, well, I know Ronna. She was Mr. Roberts, the owner of the Mission Inn, my boss, his political affairs director and personal assistant. I go, I love her. Of course I'll meet her. So, I had met her. So we sat in the lobby of this Mission Inn, and she said, Ann, she called me at first, I'm going to cancel our appointment. And I said, okay. Called me 10 minutes back later, said, no, I'm going to keep this appointment. Okay. So we're sitting in the lobby, and I am just passionate. You know the word fan is the root word of fanatical? So that's who I am. But I said, Ronna, all I know is I got saved, and all I know is I keep telling people that Mr. Roberts, who owns the Mission Inn, is going to help me, and so is the president. And it was George Bush at the time. She sat back in her chairs, her eyes about popped out of her head. And remember, she canceled the appointment, then said, no, I think I'll do it. She was, Ann, do you know where Mr. Roberts is right now? I go, no, how would I know? He goes, well, he's in the White House right now having lunch with the president. I'll join your board. Is that a great story or not? So, it's amazing. I'm telling you, God is amazing. I am so grateful that he's real still to this day. That is my gratitude and my passion. So just again, I acknowledge the servers. I also wanted to acknowledge Libby is here. You heard Chad make reference to Libby from Turn, today's Urban Renewal Network, and she's got on the table Faith in Motion. She'll be coming up to speak at the end. It is critical that you guys pay attention to the materials and get your name and your information. The girls, have we collected all of those index cards? Does anyone else have an index card with a question for Chad that we did not get to? No. And my staff, are you busy going to every table and getting those sign-in sheets? Is everyone signing in? I know you guys hate doing that, but we gotta do it. And one last thing, Chad, I so appreciated all the words that you spoke, and I think you weren't supposed to hear from us on purpose, divine order, that you were supposed to just be so taken aback that God used you powerfully, and I hope with my whole heart, especially after hearing you speak, that he's using you in a mighty way, so thank you for Chad. I'm going to have Chad come up here, and I think he's got 5 questions. Something I shared with him, and I think it's very important that all of you know the history here, and Libby's aware too. How many pastors in the room worked with Pastor Raul Diaz? God bless him. He's gone home to be with our Lord just in the last couple of years. He was a initiating soldier and did a mighty work for the Lord. Well, Pastor Diaz said, Ann, I only let 2 women speak into my life. One is Libby and one is you. And I took that as a great honor. And what Libby can confirm is he told us a story how the Lord told him to go back and research the history of Riverside County and the justice, that it used to be known years ago as a place of justice and refuge. And he said that he did all this research that the Lord led him to do, that there was a time capsule that was revealed. There was an earthquake and a time capsule was revealed that a group of people had dedicated the justice system to their God, not to our God. I don't know all the details, but it was revealed. So at the 100-year mark where that was revealed, about to become, I don't know what happens if you curse or dedicate something at 100 years, but Pastor Diaz felt strongly led to gather many Riverside pastors. They went to the courthouse steps. They signed a proclamation dedicating Riverside County back to the Lord.
Wow.
And he's not with us here today. He gave his life. Raise your hand if you signed that proclamation. So I have some witnesses here. Is it not amazing what we see happening before our eyes? Our previous sheriff, to my knowledge, was not a professed believer, but I pray for him. I pray for his salvation. But I know that God appoints people to a position for a time such as this.
Yes.
So I see a shifting back in our county, using law enforcement, not just to enforce the law, but to really be used by the Lord in a powerful way. So I just wanted to give Pastor Diaz justice where justice is due for what he did and gathered the pastors to do that. Chad, I'm going to go ahead and give you these questions. Did you take them? Did I give them to you? You stole them. Sheriff's on your Okay, so Chad, I'm going to let you have the mic and answer these questions. Did you get to eat? Okay, wonderful. So after he answers his questions, at that point we're going to follow up and bring up the Sandals pastors where Chad attends church. And we're going to start to pray for him and his leadership team. So nobody leave. We have lots of fun in store. Chad, good luck.
I need it. It was, I sat down and they said, one of the people there said, you really had no idea what you were going to say when you got up there? I said, no, I had no idea. I didn't even know this was going to be like this. So I had no idea what I was going to say when I stood up there. So it seems like most of it, or when I got up here, and all of the questions are, I could answer the same way. I have no idea. I'll take them in order just so you know what I'm not. They're almost all the same. How can we help you reach out to other non-Christian faith communities? Interfaith contacts are vital to building a better community for all. Completely true. And one thing. It's tough in, obviously being a politician, which I will never consider myself a politician, but the reality is I am. As a cop, it's easy, you can kind of say what you want, and you don't have to really, just as long as you don't offend anybody, but there are other faiths, non-Christian faiths, that still believe in the same ways you're supposed to treat people, in the same ways you're supposed to better yourself and to how you're supposed to act, moral, ethical living. So obviously it can't just be the Christian community that's going out there to try and make a difference. We do have to include other non-Christian based faith-based organizations. And really it's, I haven't met their Ann yet. So when I meet their Ann, I will know how to get into those groups. Obviously, I will have to reach out to them, and I'm in a position that I can do that. That has been my intention all along, so it will be. If you already have those contacts, then obviously that inroad, me using you to get to them is obviously the easier way to go. So if you can help in that process, then you can help. Good. Then we have our first volunteer and leader in that part of the country. I know this isn't going to be easy, and honestly, when I say I don't know, I really don't know, because I believe that we're going to figure out as we go, and if we have a plan, I believe the plan would fail. So if we play this as we go and we do the best practices, the best way we can do it as we move forward, then I think that, and we pray along the way for that to happen, then I believe it will. Because if it's the way we want to do it, it might not be the way it's supposed to happen. So I know that has to happen with the outside faiths, and we will make sure that happens. It's all about maybe doing the uncomfortable and stepping outside your safe zone and trying to make that contact. So we will, and I know it is important. There's a couple that had to do with how can we get involved in the jails. We unfortunately went through a period in our department where we either eliminated or strictly cut back the availability to pastors inside our churches. Our own chaplain program was almost dismantled. It was taken at one point a few years ago down to one. We've slowly built it up over the last couple of years, but it is still woefully inadequate. I've had several people reach out, want to get involved in our chaplain program in the department. We're going to make that much bigger, not to where, ideally we would like a chaplain at each station. The reality is we probably need 5 at each station. Not only does that avail you and the word of God to us, to employees, but also we need to call on you in the middle of the night sometimes when we come into situations where God really needs to be there and we need to get you there. We have a job to do, and we need your help to help families, to help victims, and we'll be expanding our area of chaplainship. I would encourage you to keep looking into that. You can inquire online now, and know that is going to. We really need help in that area, but. Along with that is in our jails. We currently don't have a very big presence, a very big footprint of Christian ministries or even any faith-based ministries in our jails. And obviously that has to be the first step for me. If I want this to happen, that's where we have to meet them. We can't meet them out in public. It's easier to meet them when we have them confined. So if we expand that program, if you can get involved in that program, we can meet with them there. We can give them the opportunities to find us once we let them go, find us once they get into community, and we can bring them back into some type of mentorship program or some type of where we're holding them accountable and they have someone to help them, assist them. So online, if you go online and click on our volunteer programs, with either in the jail or with the chaplain program, that would be a very, very good start. And that was the same question. This is a tough one. What partnerships do you envision with county mental health? We have it. I would prefer we didn't use county mental health. We have the ability to, the people that we come in contact with, obviously, getting them the financial help, the mental health, that is our goal when we come in contact with people that we're called for. More often than not, we're dealing with the mentally ill. Mentally ill, sometimes whether it's chemically induced through drugs or really a mental imbalance, it's really not up to decide, but we do have that outlet and that ability to involve mental health. It is woefully inadequate, but I guess that involves me working with the county to increase those provisions for where we can help, where we can get the help in our department. That's a good question, how we're all going to come together with county mental health. Anyone from county mental health in here? Do not ever repeat this, but there are some weird people. I love them to death. I really do want to help, but That's a good question, and I can't, whoever answered that, I seriously apologize. I don't know what that's gonna look like or how we're gonna do that. We do have partnerships, obviously, law enforcement in the county. How we're going to include, this and what we're doing here in that process, I don't know, other than we would be the conduit. If we're able to, for instance, Ann's a great, maybe a little snapshot of us contacting Ann and turning someone over to Ann that she's helping provide a home to. And if Ann has to get back to us and say, look, I've done all I can, this is a serious mental health issue and we need mental help, then we're the conduit to get that through the county. So we obviously could expand on that, and that's something that we're gonna have to all come together. I don't have the answer for that right now anyway. But yes, and someone just said that, and so all of you know, for what we know anyway in our line of work, mental health issues in our society right now with what we deal with is a huge problem.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think I answered all of them. There was one. They're not all the exact same, but they all concern those. Jails to minister, just go online and you can get into our volunteer programs. Non-Christian faith, partnerships. In addition to prayer, what are some practical ways that the churches can support your department? Really, a lot of times in our personnel, if you can volunteer for our department, our chaplainship program within our department is probably the best way to reach employees. And honestly, for if we want everyone on the same page of how I believe or how I think or how these guys think and what we want to push forward with our direction of the community, we have to also involve the employees, and they have to be on that same page. If they're not involved in the Christian faith, we obviously have to reach them. Sometimes as a partner at work, that might not be the easiest thing to talk to, but when we have someone available at the station that they can reach out to, and you don't even have to be there as long as your information's available, that they can reach out to you, that could be a good way just to get involved with our department as far as employees go. We can always move, we have to fix ourselves maybe sometimes before we can move on to save everybody else. But I more than welcome you into helping inside our department. As we move forward along those lines, the contacts that we're going to make as people get released from jail, where we can provide your information, or we may be able to reach out to you, even from a scene, and say, look, I have this person that somebody needs to come talk to, and we're letting them go, there's nothing we can take them to jail for, but don't feel comfortable leaving them right now and letting them walk back into where they're walking. And maybe that could be something where we somehow set up a hotline where people are available to send people out at a moment's notice and mentor somebody or help somebody get on the right path, and just sit with them to get them out of that situation. So this is like a floodgate of the options and the opportunity that we have to make a difference. And your ideas, honestly, are just as good or better than mine. So I could be asking you all of these questions and making you all answer them. And then, let's see, I should have brought glasses. I would never put them on in front of you. No, this is good. I want to act like I didn't read this one, but the person that wrote it would know I did. As a retired detective sergeant, which that'll be easy for us to find out who you are. And a current pastor, how will you train your employees to honor God and serve the people of the community? Good question. You know, honestly, it's what I hope and what I hope happens is servant leadership. You serve others, and you lead by example. You lead by how you treat other people. You lead by how you're serving other people. I hope that you know. I look at myself and I look at how I grew up in this department, how I admired people, how I didn't like some people, and how I wanted to be like some and not like others. I am hoping that how I act, how I treat others, what I say and what I do at work, and what these guys do and say at work, I hope that is a good way to almost make them want that. I can't say, well, maybe I could, and I'll have to look into it. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I could make God be a requirement of being a deputy. But I could definitely look into it. I don't know how that's going to work out on the promotion exam, or on the hiring test, but I may be able to sneak it in there somehow. The only thing I can say to that is by example, and hopefully that carries over. And I will tell you that the momentum and that the environment that we are setting for our department is that it's I unfortunately sometimes have to admit that we as an organization we're probably suffering a little bit in the integrity department. And if you didn't pay attention to what I did when I came into this position, none of these people at this table were here January 6th. They all got there January 7th.
Wow.
So it was a very drastic measure. The people inside our department pretty much know where I stand on almost everything. They know where I stand about integrity. They know where I stand about ethics, honesty. And I think that the only thing I can say is I'm hoping that what I did with the department and the message that sent, and then they all know that the people that are up there are pretty much mirrors of me. I'm hoping that's able to influence them enough to say that that's the direction that we should be going. The more often, or the more of you, the more that we can get into our stations with the availability for them to talk to someone other than us, that would probably be just as good. So, Robert, I think maybe I will put the glasses on. Robert, you better be the first one signing up for that part. Question. And that's all of them. So I'm done, thankfully.
I want to address a couple of things you shared on about mental health. Mental health issue today is a monster. Unexpected consequences. We changed a lot of laws, and whichever side of the fence you're on, I don't want to see people locked up. I wish we didn't have the need for jails, that we as the church could step up our game another level to really reach people, maybe before they make wrong decisions. I know my dear friend Rona's gone into many schools and talked to kids at that vulnerable age before they make some bad choices. But correct me if I'm wrong, in the jails, is there not a very high rate of recidivism and a revolving door? The people, okay. So something the Lord just showed me now as I listen to you speak, Chad. What about if we have churches that are willing to get their hands dirty? And I know people get afraid, but we're not supposed to be afraid. If we go to a third world country, like many people are saying, and you might get your head chopped off for talking about Jesus, certainly we can stretch our comfort level and answer calls late at night, or take people coming out of the jails. If they had a list of churches that are willing to at least walk beside them, it doesn't mean that we can solve every need from housing, but many people coming out of the jails are homeless now. So if we could serve in that way as a church and stop that revolving door, to at least slow it down a little bit, that may end up helping law enforcement in the long run. Mental health is a challenge. When we changed laws where It used to be people, if they were addicted to heavy drugs, heroin and meth and all these drugs, they would go to court and the judge would say, well, you're gonna go to rehab or you're gonna go to jail. Well, everybody was picking rehab, and people, but now you write a ticket, it's not a big deal. And I'm not saying I want to lock up drug addicts. I want a Christian real solution. This is breaking my heart. So now people are out there on their drugs, are not getting off. We're seeing a surging homeless population, and we're seeing a huge increase of mental health because of the long-term use of these deadly drugs. So we've got a problem, and it's not neat, it's not tidy, it's not politically correct or incorrect. It is just heartbreaking. And the root of all evil is the love of money. So if none of you have seen the 60 Minutes episode where the opiate crisis, they tried to stop it. Many of you saw that. I cried. They tried to stop it, and the pharmaceutical companies hired the top 42 DOJ guys to come on their team and to write a law to protect the pharmaceutical companies to stop this opiate crisis. They knew it. But here's the sad part. It wasn't about Democrat or Republican. That law went through the House and the Senate on unanimous consent calendar, and they all voted it through because the love of money is the root of all evil. So we gotta stand up. We're above all that. We gotta get outside this worldly box that wants to pull us this way, that way. We're Christians first. Our uniform, even law enforcement, want to be bold. Even before you put that uniform on, if you are a Christian, we all share the uniform of God. We have to exercise it with wisdom, and I pray for wisdom from God for you, Chad, and your team. But we're living in desperate times. In churches, okay, I struggle with God. God, I don't want to say this and I don't want to say that. But so, you know I love you all. I'm going to say something to our Christian churches, and I absolutely love you. Give you an example, mental health. I had a girl 2 years ago came to my shelter. She was saying she was pregnant with Jesus' baby, so she was experiencing mental health. She is one of my best volunteers. I kind of ignore their mental health, and I say, well, I don't want to talk about your disabilities. I'm aware.